The mother died in battle, so the woman sang her cubs to sleep. The explosion started just after dawn. Han Buell dropped her coffee cup and grabbed her medical kit in one smooth motion. She had been a combat medic for 3 years on Velcor Prime, and her body knew what to do before her mind caught up. The alarm screamed through the outpost and soldiers ran in every direction. "Razathi attack! Northeast wall!" Someone shouted. She sprinted toward the medical bunker, her boots pounding against metal floors. Around her, the Frontier Defense Corps scrambled to defensive positions. Plasma fire lit up the morning sky in bright green streaks. The Razathi were here and they had brought their full strength. Inside the bunker, wounded soldiers were already arriving. Private Kang Minho stumbled in first, clutching his arm. Blood seeped through his fingers. He was so young, barely 20, with a baby face that made him look even younger. "Just a graze," he said, trying to sound brave. Han Buell pushed him onto a bench and examined the wound. It was deeper than a graze, but he would live. She cleaned it quickly, applied synthetic skin, and wrapped it tight. "Stay here and help me with the others." More wounded came. Some walked, some were carried. The sounds of battle grew louder. The Razathi were fierce warriors, standing nearly 7 feet tall with fur-covered bodies and faces like the big cats of old Earth. They valued honor above everything, and they fought like demons. Commander Yunde's voice crackled over the radio. "Hold the northeast wall. Do not let them breach the inner compound." Han Buell worked without stopping. Her hands moved automatically, treating burns, sealing wounds, injecting painkillers. She had learned not to think too much during battles. Thinking made you slow, and slow got people killed. Outside, the fighting intensified. She heard the distinctive roar of a Razathi war cry. Through the bunker's small window, she glimpsed them, massive warriors moving with terrifying speed and grace. Their leader was easy to spot. She wore crimson armor and moved like water, cutting through human defenses with practiced efficiency. That was War Matron Velraka. Even the human soldiers knew her name. She had led a dozen successful raids against human positions. Some called her a monster. Others reluctantly called her brilliant. The battle raged for 2 hours. Han Buell lost track of time, lost track of how many soldiers she treated. Her uniform was soaked with other people's blood. Her arms ached, but she kept working. Then something changed. The sound of plasma fire shifted direction. Commander Yunde had managed to flank the Razathi position. She heard more shouting, more explosions, and then the distinctive whine of a plasma grenade. The explosion shook the entire compound. When the dust settled, the Razathi were retreating. Han Buell watched through the window as the massive warriors fell back toward the ridge. They moved in formation, disciplined even in retreat. But they were leaving something behind. "Cease fire!" Commander Yunde ordered. "Secure the perimeter. Medical teams, sweep for wounded." Han Buell grabbed her kit and headed outside with Kang Minho behind her. The battlefield was a mess of scorched earth, broken equipment, and bodies. She checked each human soldier first, marking the living and closing the eyes of the dead. Then she found the Razathi. War Matron Velraka lay half-buried in rubble near the northeast wall. Her crimson armor was cracked and blackened. Blood, dark purple, almost black, pooled beneath her. She was still alive, but barely. Her breathing came in shallow, rattling gasps. "Han Buell, that's the enemy commander," Kang Minho warned. "We should call Commander Yun." Han Buell knelt beside the dying warrior. Velraka's eyes opened, golden and bright even in pain. She tried to speak but only managed a gurgling sound. Her hand moved weakly, reaching for something on her belt. A small device, a data crystal. Velraka pressed a button, and a hologram flickered to life above the crystal. 3 small Razathi cubs appeared, playing in what looked like a garden. They were young, maybe equivalent to human children aged 5 to 10. They tumbled over each other, chasing something Han Buell couldn't see, their small tails flicking with joy. The war matron made another sound. This time, Han Buell recognized it as singing, or trying to. The melody was broken, painful, but unmistakably a lullaby. "Oh no," Han Buell whispered. Kang Minho stared at the hologram. "Those are her children." Velraka's hand clutched the crystal desperately. She looked at Han Buell, and in those golden eyes the medic saw something she understood completely. Not a warrior, not an enemy. A mother dying far from home, trying to reach her babies one last time. "Minho, help me move her," Han Buell said. "What?" "Han Buell, she's the enemy. She killed 17 of our people today. She's also dying. And she's someone's mother." Han Buell was already working, checking Velraka's vital signs. They were bad, very bad. Help me get her to the medical bay. Commander Yoon will lose his mind. Probably. Help me anyway. Together they lifted the massive warrior. She was heavy, easily twice Han Buell's weight, but adrenaline gave them strength. They half carried, half dragged her across the compound. Other soldiers stared in shock. Some shouted protests. No one tried to stop them. In the medical bay, Han Buell laid Velraka on the largest table they had. She hooked up monitoring equipment, started an IV of universal fluid that worked on most carbon-based species. The readings were all wrong. Internal bleeding, organ damage, severe trauma. Even with perfect medical care, the war matron had hours at best. Velraka's eyes followed Han Buell's movements. The hologram of her cub still played, held in her weakening grip. She tried to sing again, but her damaged vocal cords could barely produce sound. Frustration and grief twisted her feline features. Commander Yoon Dae burst through the door. "Corporal Han Buell, what the hell do you think you're doing?" "My job, sir. I'm a medic. That is the enemy commander."
"She killed our people."
"Yes, sir. And now she's dying in my medical bay." Han Buell didn't stop working. "Medical ethics don't have a species checkbox, Commander." Yoon Dae's face turned red. He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He looked at Velraka, at the hologram of the cubs, at Han Buell's determined expression. Finally, he rubbed his face with both hands. "You have until I finish securing this compound. Then we talk." He pointed at Kang Minho. "You stay here. Keep an eye on that thing." "She's not a thing," Han Buell said quietly. "She's a mother." The commander left without responding. Han Buell turned back to her patient. Velraka was still trying to sing, still clutching that crystal. The cubs played on in the hologram, unaware that their mother was dying light years away. "I don't know how to help you," Han Buell admitted softly, "but I'll try." The mother died in battle, so the woman sang her cubs to sleep. Night fell on Velcor Prime, but the medical bay stayed bright and busy. Wounded soldiers filled every bed. The smell of antiseptic and blood hung thick in the air. Han Buell moved between patients, checking vitals, changing bandages, administering medication. Her shift should have ended hours ago, but no one counted hours after a battle like this. In the corner on the largest table, War Matron Velraka lay dying. The Razathi warrior drifted in and out of consciousness. Each time she woke, her hand reached for the data crystal. The hologram of her 3 cubs played on repeat. Sometimes she tried to sing. The sound was heartbreaking, a wet rasp that barely resembled music. Han Buell had done everything medically possible. Human technology simply wasn't compatible with Razathi biology at this level of trauma. She could keep Velraka comfortable, manage her pain, but she couldn't save her. Maybe nobody could. Commander Yoon Dae had returned twice, each time looking at the dying warrior with hard eyes. He didn't order Han Buell to stop treatment, but he didn't approve either. 17 human soldiers had died today. Their bodies lay in the morgue, waiting to be sent home to families who would never see them again. War had no easy answers. Around midnight, Private Kang Minho approached Han Buell. His arm was bandaged where she'd treated his wound earlier. He looked exhausted but determined. "I want to help," he said. "You should be resting. I studied xenolinguistics before I enlisted. 2 years at university." He gestured toward Velraka. "She's trying to say something." "I might be able to translate." Han Buell looked at the dying warrior, then nodded. "Okay, try." Minho pulled up a chair beside Velraka's table. He activated his personal data pad and connected it to the translator salvaged from the Razathi's armor. The device was damaged but functional. He worked quietly, adjusting frequencies, isolating vocal patterns. Velraka's eyes opened. She looked at Minho with those golden eyes, then at Han Buell. Understanding seemed to pass between them. The warrior knew what they were trying to do. She spoke. The words came out broken and painful, but she forced them through damaged vocal cords. The translator picked up the sounds, processing them through its linguistic database. "Again. Must. Try again," the device said in flat mechanical human speech. "Try what?" Minho asked gently, speaking slowly so the translator could convert his words to Razathi. "What do you need to try?" Velraka touched the crystal. The hologram flickered, showing the 3 cubs more clearly now. They were beautiful children, their fur striped in patterns of gold and black. They laughed silently in the projection. "Song," Velraka managed. "Must finish. The song." What song? Hanbiol moved closer. The Razathi took a shuddering breath. She spoke longer this time, and the translator worked hard to keep up. My cubs, Shira, Kento, Tai, they are called. Young ones. I was going home soon. Earned enough honor. For their schooling. For their future. Minho's hands shook slightly as he adjusted the translator. You were fighting for your children's education? Razathi way. Honor of parent. Equals opportunity for cubs. Was good warrior. Much honor. She coughed and purple blood flecked her lips. But now, I die far from home. They will think I abandoned them. Hanbiol felt something tight in her chest. They won't think that. They'll know you were a warrior. That you died with honor. No. Velraka's voice grew stronger with desperation. Honor is not enough. Cubs need to know mother loved them. Need the song. Our family song. Passed down generations if mother dies. Without passing song. Cubs forget. Lineage broken. A lullaby, Minho said softly. You're trying to sing them a lullaby? Yes. Recording for them. But vocal cords damaged. Cannot finish. They will grow up. With silence. With questions. With nothing. A sound came from deep in Velraka's chest, something between a sob and a growl. Worst fate. Mother who left no voice behind. Hanbiol understood completely. She thought of her own grandmother, who had sung to her when she was small. Korean lullabies passed down through generations. The memory of those songs had comforted her through the hardest times. They were more than music. They were proof of love, proof of belonging, proof that someone had cared enough to sing you to sleep. What if someone else sang it? Hanbiol asked. Could someone else finish the recording? Velraka's eyes widened. Human cannot. Our vocal range, maybe not perfectly. But Minho can translate the words. You can teach me the melody. I can try. Hanbiol pulled up another chair. I can't save your life. But maybe I can help you finish your song. The Razathi warrior stared at her for a long moment. In that alien face, Hanbiol saw hope war with disbelief. Finally, Velraka spoke again. You would do this? For enemy? For a mother? Yes. Minho was already working, recording Velraka's broken attempts at the lullaby. He isolated the melody, mapped the tonal structure, broke it down into components a human voice might manage. It took time. Velraka had to rest frequently, gathering strength to produce even a few notes. The lullaby was beautiful. It had a strange, haunting quality that made Hanbiol's skin prickle. The melody rose and fell in patterns that felt almost familiar, like it tapped into something universal about parent and child. The words, Minho said, reading from his translation, they're about stars and home, about being brave even when mother is far away, about growing strong and wise, about remembering where you come from. Velraka added more between labored breaths. The translator caught fragments. Tell cubs. Proud of them. Tell them mother fought for their future. Tell them sorry for not returning. But love. Love crosses any distance, even death. Hanbiol felt tears on her face. She wiped them quickly. I'll tell them. I'll sing it for them. Why? Velraka asked. We are enemies. My warriors killed your warriors today. Why help me? Hanbiol thought about it. Because you're right. Cubs should know their mother loved them. All cubs, human or Razathi or anything else. That's not about war. That's just what we owe each other. She started practicing the melody, humming it softly at first. Her voice couldn't hit the lowest notes or the highest, but she found a middle range that captured the essence of it. Velraka listened, her golden eyes never leaving Hanbiol's face. Sometimes she made small corrections, a gesture for higher or lower, faster or slower. Hours passed. The medical bay grew quiet as most of the wounded soldiers finally slept. Only a few staff members remained awake. They watched the strange scene in the corner with confused expressions, but no one interrupted. As dawn approached, Hanbiol finally sang the complete lullaby. Her voice was steady and clear. Minho recorded it on the data crystal alongside Velraka's original fragments. The Razathi warrior added her own words between verses when she had the strength, messages for each cub by name. Shira, my brave one. Lead your siblings. Be strong. Kento, my clever one. Ask questions. Seek truth. Tay, my little spark. Laugh often. Remember joy. When it was finished, Velraka closed her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Human? What is your name? Han Buell, Corporal Han Buell. Han Buell. Velraka spoke the name carefully. I will remember. In next life. Perhaps we meet as friends. Perhaps, Han Buell said softly. The Razathi warrior's breathing grew shallow. She held the crystal close to her chest and the hologram played one more time. Her cubs tumbled and played in endless loop. She watched them until her eyes finally closed for the last time. Han Buell sat in silence for a long moment. Then she looked at Minho. Now what? He asked quietly. Her cubs are somewhere in Razathi space. We're at war. How do we get this recording to them? Han Buell had no answer. They had completed the song, but the real problem remained. 3 Razathi cubs would grow up wondering about their mother, and the message of love sat on a crystal in enemy territory, impossible to deliver. She looked down at Velraka's still form. I don't know, but we have to try. The mother died in battle, so the woman sang her cubs to sleep. 3 days after the battle, a Razathi ship appeared on the edge of Velcor Prime's sensor range. It transmitted a single message on open frequencies, a request for truce under the ancient warrior traditions of body retrieval. Commander Yoon Dae read the message with narrowed eyes. They want their dead back. It's a sacred tradition for them, Minho said. He had been studying Razathi culture since the battle, reading everything the military database had on their society. Warriors believe the body must return home or the spirit wanders forever. Or it's a trick, Yoon suggested. Maybe, but they're following proper protocol. Flag of truce, unarmed courier vessel. Formal request through military channels. The commander rubbed his tired face. We'll honor it. Prepare the Razathi bodies for transfer. In the medical bay, Han Buell carefully prepared War Matron Velraka for the journey home. She cleaned the warrior's armor, arranged her body with dignity, placed her weapons at her side as Razathi custom demanded. The data crystal with the lullaby sat in a sealed container beside the body. You should give it to them yourself, Minho suggested. The commander won't allow that. I'm already in trouble for treating her in the first place. Han Buell had been formally reprimanded but not punished. Too many witnesses had spoken up for her, soldiers whose lives she had saved over the years. He'll probably assign the transfer to some diplomatic officer. But when the Razathi courier vessel landed under heavy guard, Commander Yoon Dae surprised everyone. He ordered Han Buell and Minho to join the exchange detail. Why me? Han Buell asked. Because you started this mess. You might as well finish it. His expression was hard to read, and because I think you're right. I don't know if it matters in the big picture, but maybe it should. The exchange took place on neutral ground, a flat stretch of land halfway between the human outpost and where the Razathi ship had set down. Both sides came armed but held fire. The tension was thick enough to cut. The Razathi delegation consisted of 5 warriors. The leader was massive even by their standards, his fur darker than Velraka's, streaked with silver. He wore black armor marked with the same symbols Han Buell had seen on Velraka's uniform. His golden eyes swept over the humans with barely concealed contempt. I am Sub-Commander Velthask, he announced in surprisingly good human speech. Brother to War Matron Velraka, I claim her body by right of blood. Commander Yoon Dae stepped forward. We return your dead with honor. They fought well. It was a carefully neutral statement, soldier to soldier. Velthask inclined his head slightly, acknowledging it. The Razathi warriors moved forward to collect their fallen. They handled each body with reverence, speaking prayers in their own language. When they reached Velraka, Velthask stopped. He stared down at his sister for a long moment. His hand trembled as he touched her face. Whatever else the Razathi were, they grieved like anyone else. Han Buell stepped forward before she could lose her nerve. Sub-Commander Velthask, the massive warrior turned, his eyes fixed on her with predatory intensity. Yes, human? I have something for you. For War Matron Velraka's cubs. She held out the sealed container with the data crystal. Velthask's eyes narrowed. What is this? Your sister's last gift to her children. She recorded a message for them before she died. Han Buell kept her voice steady. She wanted them to have it. The sub-commander took the container slowly, like he expected it to explode. You lie. My sister would not share family matters with enemies. She didn't want to. She didn't have a choice. Han Buell gestured to Minho, who held up his translation device. Your sister was wounded in the battle. Her vocal cords were damaged. She couldn't finish recording a lullaby for her cubs, so I finished it for her. You? Velthask's voice dropped dangerously low. A human sings my family's sacred song? I know I can't sing it properly. But she asked. She was dying and she asked, and I tried. Han Buell met his eyes directly. Your sister loved her children. She fought this war for them. She died far from home for them. The least I could do was help her say goodbye. Velthask opened the container. He activated the crystal and Velraka's weak voice emerged, speaking in Razathi. Then Han Buell's voice followed, singing the lullaby in human tones. The melody was recognizable despite the differences in vocal range. The sub-commander's face went through several emotions too quickly to name. He listened to the entire recording. When it finished, he stood in silence for a long moment. The other Razathi warriors had stopped their work to listen. Several of them looked shocked. You learned our family song, Velthask said quietly. Do you understand what this means in our culture? Minho explained some of it. That family songs are sacred, that they're passed down through generations. Han Buell paused. Your sister said the worst fate was dying without passing on the song, leaving her cubs with nothing, with silence. And you, a human, an enemy, chose to prevent that fate. Velthask's voice carried something Han Buell couldn't quite identify. Why? Because she was a mother. Because her cubs deserved to know she loved them. Han Buell felt the weight of every human soldier watching her, judging her. Because some things are bigger than war. Velthask looked at the crystal in his hand, then at Han Buell, then at his sister's body. You do not understand what you have done. Han Buell's heart sank. She had somehow violated some Razathi custom, made everything worse. I'm sorry if I offended. No. The sub-commander cut her off. You do not understand the honor you have given. To learn another family's sacred song is... He searched for words in human speech. It is reserved for closest bonds. For family by choice, not by blood. For those who share fire and storm together. For... He stopped, looking frustrated with the limits of language. Minho spoke up softly. The translation program says the closest human concept is adoption or chosen family. When a Razathi learns another's family song, it means they consider themselves kin. Velthask nodded. My sister died alone, far from home, surrounded by enemies. But this human treated her as kin, learned her song as kin, preserved her voice as kin. He looked directly at Han Buell. Corporal Han Buell, you have done what my own people did not. We abandoned Velraka's squad when the battle turned against us. Military necessity, we called it. But you, an enemy, showed her mercy we did not. He did something then that made every Razathi warrior gasp. He reached up and removed one of his honor talons, a curved metal sheath worn over a claw. It was inscribed with symbols Han Buell couldn't read. He held it out to her. This is personal peace between your line and mine. House Velraka will not raise weapons against you or yours. I cannot speak for my empire, but I speak for my blood. He placed the talon in her hand. And I swear by the sacred songs that this crystal will reach Shira, Kento, and Te. They will know what you did. They will know that a human enemy honored their mother more than her own command did. Han Buell accepted the talon with shaking hands. It was warm from his body heat, heavy with meaning she was only beginning to understand. Thank you, she said simply. The exchange completed in silence. The Razathi took their dead and departed. Commander Yunde ordered everyone back to the outpost. Han Buell walked in a daze, the honor talon clutched in her hand. That night, lying in her bunk, she thought about Velraka's cubs. Somewhere in Razathi space, 3 children would receive their mother's final gift. They would hear a human voice singing their family lullaby. Maybe they would understand. Maybe they wouldn't. But they would know their mother loved them enough to trust an enemy with her most sacred gift. Han Buell closed her eyes and hummed the lullaby softly. She had learned it to help one mother say goodbye to her children. She hadn't expected it to change anything beyond that. But as she drifted toward sleep, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, small acts of kindness could ripple outward in ways no one could predict. In the darkness, she smiled. 3 cubs would sleep tonight with their mother's voice. That was enough. The mother died in battle. So the woman sang her cubs to sleep 2 weeks after the body exchange. Han Buell woke to alarms she had hoped never to hear again. Not battle alarms this time, something different. The communication system was going crazy with incoming signals from every command post in the sector. She dressed quickly and ran to the command center. Commander Yoondae stood at the main console, staring at a priority transmission that had just arrived. Other officers crowded around him, speaking in urgent whispers. "What's happening?" Hanbyul asked. Yoondae turned to her with an expression somewhere between shock and disbelief. "The Razathi Empire has formally requested peace negotiations." "What? They want to talk? After 18 months of war, they suddenly want to talk." He gestured at the screen. "And they specifically requested that you be part of the human delegation." Hanbyul felt the floor tilt slightly. "Me? Why me?" "Because apparently word got around about what you did for War Matron Velraka." Minho appeared from somewhere in the crowd, holding his datapad. "I've been monitoring Razathi communication channels. The story spread through their warrior caste like fire. They're calling it the Song of Peace. Some are calling you the human who sings." "That's ridiculous. I just helped a dying mother." "That's exactly why it matters to them," Minho explained. "Razathi culture is all about honor and strength. They thought humans were weak, cowardly, without honor. But what you did? They have words for that kind of strength. It's called Kareshtal in their language. It means roughly strength that builds rather than destroys." Commander Yoondae rubbed his face tiredly. "High Command is taking this seriously. They're sending a full diplomatic team to Haven's Gate Station for preliminary talks. And they want you there, Corporal. I'm a medic, not a diplomat. You're the medic who apparently changed the entire Razathi perspective on humanity. So pack your dress uniform. We leave tomorrow." The trip to Haven's Gate took 3 days on a military transport. Hanbyul spent most of it feeling sick with anxiety. She wasn't prepared for this. She had just done what felt right in the moment. She didn't understand politics or diplomacy or any of the complicated things that made peace between warring civilizations. Minho tried to help, tutoring her on Razathi customs and cultural touchstones. "The key thing to remember is that they respect directness. Don't try to be diplomatic in the human sense. Say what you mean. They value honesty above clever words. I can do that at least. And if they ask you why you did it, tell them the simple truth. Razathi respect simple truths. It's one of their core values." Haven's Gate was a massive neutral station, jointly administered by multiple species. The diplomatic wing had been prepared for the talks with elaborate care. Human and Razathi flags hung side by side in the main conference hall. Security was everywhere. The human delegation arrived first. Senior diplomats, military advisors, cultural experts, all the important people. And Hanbyul, feeling completely out of place in her dress uniform with its single medal for medical service. When the Razathi delegation arrived, every human in the room tensed. The warriors were massive, imposing, armed despite the peace talks, but they followed protocol precisely, moving to their designated positions without aggression. Sub-Commander Velthask was among them. He wore formal armor now, black and gold marked with symbols of rank and house. When his eyes found Hanbyul in the crowd, he inclined his head in acknowledgement. The initial talks were stiff and formal. Both sides presented positions, drew lines, established ground rules. Hanbyul sat in the back, trying to be invisible. This was work for people who understood these things. What was she even doing here? Then, during a break in the proceedings, Velthask approached her directly. The human security detail tensed, but he raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "Corporal Hanbyul, may I speak with you?" "Of course." He led her to a side room, away from the crowds. Once alone, he pulled out a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared. 3 young Razathi cubs, the same ones Hanbyul had seen in Velraka's recording. But these cubs were different now. They stood formally, wearing small versions of Razathi honor dress. "This was recorded 1 week ago," Velthask explained. "My sister's cubs wanted to send you a message." The oldest cub, Shira, stepped forward in the hologram. She spoke in careful, practiced human words. "Corporal Hanbyul, I am Shira, daughter of War Matron Velraka. My siblings and I received our mother's final song. We heard your voice singing our family words." Kento spoke next, his human speech less practiced but earnest. "You gave us great gift. Mother's voice. Mother's love. We not forget." Little Tay, the youngest, simply held up a drawing. It showed a figure that might have been a human, and 3 smaller figures that were definitely Razathi cubs. They were holding hands in the picture, standing under a sun and stars. Shira continued. "Our uncle says you are now family by choice. We accept this. You are Aunt Hanbyul, human kin to House Velraka. Our mother's song will teach our cubs someday, and we will tell them about you. About the enemy who sang with love. The hologram ended. Han Buell found her eyes wet with tears. They're beautiful children. They are strong like their mother. Velthask paused. I brought them here today. They asked to meet you. They're here? At the station? In the family quarters? It is against protocol, but... He made a gesture that Han Buell interpreted as the Razathi equivalent of a shrug. Some things are more important than protocol. Would you meet them? Han Buell followed Velthask through the station's corridors to the Razathi family quarters. Inside, the three cubs waited nervously. They were smaller than she expected, only coming up to her waist. When they saw her, Shira stepped forward bravely. Aunt Han Buell, she said, using the Razathi word this time. It sounded like a purr mixed with a chime. Han Buell knelt down to their level. Hello, Shira. Hello, Kento. Hello, Tay. Little Tay suddenly rushed forward and hugged Han Buell around the neck. The cub was warm and soft, her fur tickling Han Buell's face. The other two cubs joined in. And Han Buell found herself surrounded by Razathi children who should have been her enemies, but instead treated her like family. Your mother was very brave, Han Buell said softly. She loved you so much. Everything she did for you. Uncle says you brave too, Kento said. You sing our song even though humans and Razathi are fighting. I did what any mother would want someone to do for her children. Shira pulled back and looked at Han Buell seriously. Mother's song has new verse now. About you. About human who builds bridges. We will pass it to our cubs and their cubs forever. House Velraka remembers they spent an hour together. The cubs showed Han Buell their drawings, their toys, told her stories about their mother that Velthask translated. Tay fell asleep in Han Buell's lap halfway through, purring softly. It was the most surreal and beautiful hour of Han Buell's life. When it was time to return to the negotiations, Velthask walked with her. What you did for my sister has changed many Razathi minds. We thought humans were weak because you value life over honor. We did not understand that valuing life is its own kind of strength. And what do you think now? I think perhaps we have been wrong about many things. I think perhaps this war started because neither side tried to understand the other. We saw differences and assumed they meant weakness or hostility. He paused at the conference hall doors. These talks will be difficult. Many on both sides want to continue fighting. But because of you, enough of us are willing to try peace. That is something. Back in the conference hall, the negotiations resumed, but something had changed. Other Razathi warriors had heard about the cubs' visit. The story spread quickly through both delegations. Human diplomats who had been skeptical found themselves reconsidering. Razathi warriors who had been hostile seemed more open to listening. It wasn't magic. It didn't solve everything. But it opened a door that had been closed. That night back in her quarters, Han Buell looked at a photo on her datapad. Someone had taken it without her noticing, showing her surrounded by the three Razathi cubs, all of them smiling. Human and Razathi, former enemies looking like any family in the universe. She thought about Velraka, who had died for her children's future. She thought about all the soldiers on both sides who had died in this war. Maybe peace wouldn't bring them back. Maybe it wouldn't undo all the pain. But maybe it would mean their children could grow up in a world where singing a lullaby across species lines didn't seem impossible. That was worth fighting for. That was worth hoping for. 6 months after the first peace talks, Han Buell stood in front of the Joint Peace Commission on Haven's Gate. The room was enormous, filled with representatives from both human and Razathi governments. Cameras recorded everything for broadcast across both civilizations. She wore her dress uniform, the same one she'd worn to her first meeting with the cubs. The honor talon from Velthask hung on a chain around her neck. She was terrified. Corporal Han Buell, the human chair of the commission, said, "You've been called to testify about the events on Velcor Prime that many believe sparked these peace negotiations. Please tell the commission in your own words what happened." Han Buell took a breath and began. She told them about the battle, about finding Velraka in the rubble, about the hologram of the cubs. She told them about the lullaby, about working through the night with Minho to finish the recording. She spoke plainly, without trying to make it sound noble or heroic. She just told the truth. Why did you help an enemy soldier? Someone asked from the Razathi side. She had killed your comrades. Because she was dying and she was a mother, and her children deserved to know they were loved. Han Buell looked directly at the questioner. I didn't think about ending a war. I didn't think about politics. I just thought about 3 children who would grow up wondering if their mother had abandoned them. But you must have known it would cause complications. A human diplomat pressed. Helping the enemy commander? I knew Commander Yoon would be angry. I didn't know it would lead to this. She gestured around the room. I'm a medic. I treat wounded people. That's my job. Everything else, she paused, searching for words. Everything else just happened because I did my job. A senior Razathi warrior stood. His armor marked him as someone of high rank, covered in honor symbols. You say you did not think of politics, but you made a political choice. You chose to see War Matron Velraka as a mother rather than an enemy. No. Han Buell said quietly. I saw her as both. She was an enemy. She did kill my comrades, but she was also a mother dying far from her children. Both things were true at the same time. I just chose to help with the part I could help with. The warrior studied her for a long moment. You speak simple truth. We respect this. The testimony continued for hours. They asked about the lullaby, about the translation process, about her meeting with the Cubs. They asked about her medical training, her family background, her opinions on the war. Han Biol answered everything honestly, even when honesty made her look naive or foolish. Finally, the questioning ended. Han Biol was dismissed to wait while the commission deliberated. She sat in a small side room, exhausted and emotionally drained. Minho found her there. You did great. I just told them what happened. I don't know if it helped. It helped more than you think. The broadcasts are going out live. Both human and Razathi populations are watching. Public opinion is shifting. Before Han Buell could respond, an aide rushed in. They're calling everyone back. There's been a development. Back in the commission room, something had changed. The formal seating had broken up, and humans and Razathi were talking in mixed groups. At the center of the room stood Sub-Commander Velthask, and with him were Shira, Kento, and Tay. The Cubs had grown in 6 months. They were bigger, more confident. But when they saw Han Buell, Tay broke protocol and ran to her the same way she had at their first meeting. Han Buell caught the cub and held her, not caring about the cameras or the important people watching. Aunt Han Buell, Tay said in much improved human speech. We came to help. Shira approached more formally. The commission asked us to testify. About our mother. About what your gift meant to us, Velthask explained. When they learned the Cubs were on station, some commission members requested to hear from them directly. We agreed. The Cubs took positions at the testimony stand. Shira spoke first, her voice clear despite her youth. I am Shira, eldest daughter of War Matron Velraka. Before my mother died, I was angry. I wanted to be a warrior like her, to fight humans, to get revenge for her being sent to dangerous place. But then we received her final message. We heard her voice and we heard human voice singing our family song, and I understood something. My mother did not hate humans. She fought because that was her duty, but she did not hate, and when she died, a human honored her. This changed how I think, Kento spoke next. Human Aunt Han Buell sang our song. In Razathi culture, this means family. It means she chose to be our family. Why would enemy do this? I think because we are not really enemies. We are just people who did not understand each other yet. Little Tay held up a new drawing. This one showed many figures, both human and Razathi, all holding hands under stars. This is future I want, where humans and Razathi are friends, where nobody's mother has to die far from home, where everyone can sing together. The room fell silent. Then something unexpected happened. A Razathi warrior in the back stood and began to sing. Han Buell recognized it immediately, the lullaby she had learned from Velraka. Other Razathi joined in, their powerful voices filling the space with the haunting melody. And then, quietly at first, Han Buell began to sing with them. Her human voice blended with the Razathi chorus, different but harmonious. Minho joined in, and other humans who had learned the melody. The song grew, human and Razathi voices together, singing a lullaby about home and love and hope. I think we have heard enough testimony. The matter is clear. This war began because we failed to see each other as people. It can end because one medic chose to see a dying mother instead of just an enemy. Because 3 Cubs chose to forgive instead of hate. Because sometimes the bravest thing is not fighting, but singing. The formal vote came 3 days later. The peace treaty wasn't perfect. Territorial disputes remained. Trade agreements needed work. Cultural exchanges required careful planning. But the framework was there. built on the simple recognition that both humans and Razathi loved their children, grieved their dead, and sang songs to preserve their memories. The treaty included a special provision, suggested by Shira herself. The Velraka Memorial Accord established cultural exchange programs focused on shared values across species. Medical personnel from both sides would train together. Families could visit each other's worlds. And most importantly, each side would teach the other their lullabies, their songs of home and hope. The signing ceremony took place on Velcor Prime, on the battlefield where it had all begun. A monument was erected there, showing a human and a Razathi standing back to back protecting something together instead of fighting each other. The inscription was simple in both languages. Here a mother died in battle. Here the woman sang her cubs to sleep. Here peace began. Han Buell attended the ceremony with the cubs, now officially recognized as her adoptive nieces and nephew by both human and Razathi law. Commander Yunde was there too, retired now but still standing tall. Minyo had become a full-time translator for the cultural exchange program. During the ceremony, Han Buell was asked to sing. She chose 2 songs. First, Velraka's family lullaby, which she now knew by heart. The cubs sang with her, and so did dozens of Razathi warriors who had learned the story. The melody filled the battlefield where their mother had fallen. Then she sang a Korean lullaby, the one her grandmother had taught her. Jajang Jajang, about sleeping peacefully, about being safe and loved. To her surprise, a group of young Razathi sang along in their language, having learned it as a gesture of reciprocal respect. After the ceremony, Han Buell stood alone for a moment at the memorial. She touched the stone where Velraka's name was carved, along with all the other dead from that battle, human and Razathi together. "I hope your cubs make you proud," she whispered. "They're good children. Strong and brave and kind, just like you wanted them to be." A hand touched her shoulder. Shira stood beside her, now almost as tall as Han Buell. The young Razathi looked at her mother's name on the memorial. "She would be proud of you too," Shira said. "You kept your promise. You finished her song. And you did more than that. You started a new song, one about peace." Han Buell smiled. "It wasn't just me. It took all of us." "Yes, but you sang the first note. Sometimes that is the hardest part." Years later, when Han Buell was old and her own children asked her about the war, she would tell them the truth. Wars were terrible things, full of death and pain and loss. But even in the darkest times, small acts of kindness mattered. One lullaby sung across the species divide had reminded everyone on both sides that they were not so different after all. The war ended with a treaty, she would tell her children. But peace began with a song. Never underestimate what one voice can do when it chooses love over hate, compassion over cruelty, connection over division. And sometimes on quiet nights, she would sing them both lullabies, the Korean one from her grandmother, and the Razathi one from a warrior who had died as a mother. Different languages, different melodies, but both carrying the same message. You are loved. You are safe. Sleep now, little one. Tomorrow will be better than today. And across the stars, in a Razathi home, 3 grown cubs would sing the same songs to their own children, keeping alive the memory of the human aunt who had shown them that peace was possible. One note at a time. The mother had died in battle, as warriors sometimes must. But the woman had sung her cubs to sleep, as humans often do. And in that simple act, she had changed the galaxy,